Sunday the 17th, and today's the day I'm going off to talk at Abergavenny Food Festival. So inevitably I have a mild frog in my throat. I'm not ill, I think that's just nerves. And vanity dictates to me today that I need to put on a little bit of makeup and make myself look fresh and presentable. And actually, do you know what? I feel fresh and presentable every day. Well, except for the days that I'm lying under a duvet. But other than those days, I feel entirely fresh and presentable. But so I'm going to put on a bit of makeup and have some breakfast. And we've got about 40 minutes before we head off to go and find our parking place. And my nerves are kicking in now. I don't really like public speaking. I like talking to you. This is a one-to-one conversation. And it's going to be harder to have a one-to-one. Excuse me. It's going to be harder to have a one-to-one with a room full of people. But as I said to Mr. J last night, it may well be that there's only 6 people there. In which case, it'll be a very different conversation, and it'll be much more intimate. But we'll see. So I'm nervous and I'm excited, but I need to crack on. Well, we've got to Abergavenny to go to the food festival. We have no idea where we're going next, and so it's a quick walk round, and we've got a good hour and a half before I'm talking anyway, because I wanted to be able to have a look around the farmyard, have a look around the festival, and I want to find a stall that is selling raw milk, because I really want to buy some raw milk to take home and have a go at making some cheese.
And the third one, raspberry leaf, blackberry leaf.
So this is where I'm going to be talking. Nice hay bales for people to sit on, and there's a girl called Liz Knight talking at the moment about making bramble and nettle tea. Well, we've got here, and we are in one of the market streets with loads of food stalls all around us, and the sun's come out, which is cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the food festival seems to have livened up now with an awful lot more people, and there are just people as far as I can see.
Find your own smallholding, growing vegetables, really putting that into practice. Come and have a conversation with me and Liz now over here in this warm, cosy farmyard tent. So lots of people have a dream of moving to the countryside and becoming self-sufficient with their own chickens and ducks and growing their own vegetables in this very, very idyllic ideal. Oh, if it doesn't work out, I'll just move to the countryside, I'll go and live on a farm and all will be well. Now, is that the case? Is it as simple as that? Now, my experience of growing cabbages the past 6 months, really enthusiastic, I'm going to be completely self-sufficient, went away for 2 weeks, came back, all my cabbages were covered in butterflies, the larvae, so that didn't work, and increasingly I realised actually to be self-sufficient, to live on land is actually very difficult, and it's not as easy as you think. What's it been like for you? Let's tell everyone a little bit about where you're from and your story of being a smallholder.
We live near Chepstow and moved to our smallholding about 18 months ago or so. And we hadn't intended being smallholders at all. We moved somewhere, had a big garden so I could grow a few veg, and then circumstances changed and it became really obvious I wasn't going to go back to work, so I had to find a way to make our lifestyle work. And that meant I stayed at home and I created a vegetable garden and fruit garden from the field. And we very quickly discovered we couldn't dig down into the ground because the soil was not up to it and there was way too much grass from previous grass houses. So it hasn't been easy, and I just thought it might be really useful to talk through. So I thought it might be really useful to just talk through some of the hideous mistakes I made along the way, and I continue to make. So I've got some notes, and One of the first things that we decided to do was to plan really big, but start really small, so that we have this grand plan of what our small holding is going to look like. And we're on a tiny small holding. It's 0.8 of an acre, so it's really a very big garden as opposed to having loads of land, and that means we have to be really efficient with space. So everything is thought about very carefully. So I made this grand plan, and I started with one raised bed, 4 foot by 15, and we've built lots of those now. But it has been that case of just take it in small steps all the time and see how things work, because all those visions you have of growing loads of cabbages or growing loads of food for yourself, actually it's a really hard slog. And you can't, if you try and do too much at once, you don't succeed with any of it, and then you kind of feel like a failure and get put off by everything. So I think one of the things we learned early on was not to use permanent boundaries for the vegetable garden or for the animals, so that all our chickens are in flexible fencing, which means that the at least 6 changes of layouts that we've done so far are moving chickens around because they don't work where they are, or because we want to use that land for something else. We, instead of having to take out permanent fencing, it's just hoik up the flexible fencing and off you go. So that's been a really useful one. And I think one of the biggest things for us has to be debt free. So we haven't gone into debt to achieve any of this at all. And if we want, as I do, I want a new, actually I think this would be great, but I want a new area for the chickens, a new covered area. And it would be very easy, get the credit card out and buy one, but eventually that's got to be paid for somehow. So at the moment, all the sales of eggs that we do, the sales of veg boxes, all of that money gets squirreled away, and when eventually we can afford the next bit, then we're buying it. But it means that we're not having to have that worry all the time, and that's made a huge impact on our lives, absolutely huge impact. It means that Mark, my partner over here, only has to work part-time, so he has more time on small holding with me, and you breathe easily at night.
So for those of you who've just come to the farmyard, welcome. We're here talking to Liz about her experience of what it's like to actually have a small holding, the real daily grind, and the reality of it. I think that's a really good point about debt. I think it must be incredibly tempting to say, we really need this for the chickens, or we really need this for the cows, and then thinking, we'll make it back, getting into debt, and then you get into that stage, which is, I think, really, really dangerous. And yeah. So do you, if you don't mind me asking, do you make a living from it? Is it that you're wanting to be kind of self-sufficient? How do you kind of make it work financially?
So obviously there are bills that have to be paid. So Mark's wages pay for the have to bills, and I put food on our table. We are at the end of last year, so that was the end of our first season there effectively. We were eating about 50 to 60% of the food on our plate came from the small holding. This year we're up to about 85 to 90%, and an awful lot of our meals is 100%. And we're kind of at the stage at the moment where if I see another bean, I'm going to scream. And courgettes have been my favourite this year, but beans have been great. And we have, we've done all sorts of things like buy an extra freezer because we've just produced way more food than we expected to. So it's been an interesting experience, and one of the things that we've got really good at is keeping a record of everything. So we keep a record of everything that happens to the chickens. So when they're hatched, when they're dispatched, if any of them's ill, what we've treated them with. And I keep a gardening record, which is basically when I've sowed some seeds, how well they grew, did they get eaten by anything, what did I treat it with, does diatomaceous work on cabbages, all of those things all get noted down, and then the most important thing on it, what did it taste like? so that we don't go back in years to come and grow things we hated this time round. So that's been really good, having that book of stuff to refer to. And then the other thing I do is almost from the moment we put the offer in on the house, I wrote a blog. So I blogged almost daily, and then this year I started making vlogs. So I actually do a video log every single day, which is, yes, I'm filming now. And so that's been really good to be able to look back and see the progress, because one of the things I think is really important is that you celebrate your successes. Because it's really easy to get into, that didn't work, that chicken's poorly, that duck's rubbish, and you just can get yourself into a negative cycle really easily. But Mark is very good at making me go back and look at where we were 6 months ago and how much we've achieved in that time, and we do celebrate successes, and when we sit down to eat, we look at the food and we go, 100% homegrown, how amazing is that? If they grow coffee and bananas and tea and sugar, we'd be there. We would be absolutely there. But we're realistic, and we actually say we're looking to be self-efficient rather than self-sufficient. So as much as we can, with our slightly cronky bodies, in our mid-50s, and no previous farming experience. I think it's been brave, it's been tough. Like dispatching your first chicken and duck, scaring McClary, and they've been, those things have been really steep learning curves, and I know my friends kind of get fed up and banging on about how we've managed to do so much, but actually they quite like the food on the plate when they come round. And this year's experiment has been wine, hasn't it? So my bathroom now looks like a brewery. Because we've got a bit of underfloor heating, so there are demijohns galore everywhere, and it's all good.
And for someone wanting to go and create their own small holding or market garden, what support would you say is out there? Is there enough support? Is there not enough? And where can you get that support from? And what kind of support would you say in an ideal world should be in place? Because so many people want to live in the land, want to grow, but I think a lot of people who live in the city don't know literally what to do next. So what support's needed, and what support did you get?
When we first moved there, we were very much, we were semi-townies, and we really didn't know what we were doing at all. And I turned to the internet. I read a lot, and I just went online endlessly. Typed in everything I could possibly think of that might have something to do with farming, smallholding, homesteading, food, everything like that. So I did that, and I did lots and lots of social media. And through Twitter and Facebook, I came into contact with quite a lot of other smallholders who are feeling very isolated, feeling quite lonely, not really knowing what they're doing, and a bit like us floundering around in the dark. And that support network has been really important. And although I've kept friends from my old life, it's actually that we've almost got nothing in common anymore, because they're off out partying or to the cinema, or they're going on holiday. Holidays? No holidays. And so conversation becomes much harder, and with new friends who are homesteading and smallholding and farming, there's much more in common, and that sort of support has been brilliant. But that's all really informal. There isn't, that I found, a really useful go-to place to go, how do I do this? And find a definitive answer.
And another question. You were going to give someone three pieces of advice, or a piece of advice, whatever you feel. What would be your kind of key advice? Do this. This is what, or kind of inspiration that you'd give to someone wanting to become a smallholder or a homesteader.
I saw a fantastic little card years ago that said something like, friends of the people who look over your garden fence and ignore the weeds and see the flowers. And that's the kind of friends you need. But actually, mostly, you need to be that friend to yourself.
That is a great take-home message for anyone doing anything. Just be nice to yourself, because it's much easier when you are. Thank you so much. It was really, really interesting, Liz. Thank you for joining us. And good luck. Keep growing vegetables and keep enjoying being in nature. And yeah, thank you.
So we've done our bit, and now we're just going to go off into the market hall and find our friend Martha, who I think is selling her pork somewhere very close by, but we just can't find her yet. One of the things I don't enjoy so much about leaving our homestead is the sheer volume of people everywhere, and I've got really quite appreciative of the peace and quiet at home, and though it's lovely, it is lovely to see other people, just en masse, it gets a bit much.
That's 400 grams, just over £6, say £6.
She's frowning. It's not good when she frowns, is it? Hello! And there are literally hundreds of different stalls here, all selling, some singing. And yeah, there are hundreds of food providers, small food producers from around the UK here today, and there's an awful lot of interest in nearly every stall, which is fantastic to see. What would be really nice would be to think that some of the support for local producers seen here today will continue on after the event, and that some people will start buying from local producers on a more regular basis. And now we are back at home from the food festival, and you know, it really is quite nice to go out and be part of an exciting project like that. But you know, it's really nice. It's really nice to come home to the relative quiet and peace and orderliness of home, and the ducks aren't quiet and the chickens aren't quiet, and obviously we can still hear the road and everything, but it's so much more quiet than the noise of several thousand people all milling around and not really knowing where they're going and what they're doing, and certainly by the latter part of the day, I suspect that most people, or a lot of people, will be a little worse for wear, having tried very many locally grown produce, in particular imbibing rather a lot of locally produced drink. And so, wherever you are in the world, and whatever you've got planned for today, I hope it's a quiet one and a peaceful one, or a boisterous one if that's what you want. And I also hope you can join me again tomorrow.